Hey, do you want to hear a joke?
I always want to hear a joke.
What's green and pear-shaped?
What's green and pear-shaped? I don't know.
A pear.
God, that's shocking. Surely you can do better than that.
All right, one more. What's brown and sticky?
Oh, God, I don't know where this is going. What's brown and sticky?
A stick.
Hey, Ron, you know we are recording.
Oh, shit, we're recording.
Strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jack and Raoul.
Oh, welcome back, keepers, to
I can
another
give you
issue.
one more. I can give you one more.
All right.
What's the favourite part of a... Oh, hang on.
Welcome back, keepers, to Keeping It Real with Jack and Raoul.
What's an astronaut's favourite part of a computer?
What's an astronaut's favourite part of a computer? I've got no idea.
The space bar.
Oh, God, they're getting worse. Stop
All right,
right
stop
now.
it. I'll save more for later.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, happy. It is the 4 C's.
The 4 C's. Is that what this episode's about,
This
the 4 C's?
is the topic.
Let me guess. Knowing you, the first one's going to be Chardonnay.
Good guess.
Chocolate.
Ooh, another good guess. Keep
Cab
going.
Sav. Creek Estate. As in Wild Duck Creek Estate.
I love it.
No, all right, what are the 4 C's?
The 4 C's.
Tell us what the 4 C's
Well,
are.
the 4 C's are collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking.
And why
Are we talking about
are we
this?
talking about the 4 C's?
Well-
because, I do love a C word.
You love a story, a C word. Rich and I were talking the other day. We were talking about education. He does relief teaching, yeah, and high school teacher. And I said, gosh, education, it's come a long way, or you would hope it's come a long way since the days of reading, writing and arithmetic. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, yeah, today it's all about the 4 C's. And I said, what? The 4 C's? He said, yeah, as teachers, we are actually teaching collaboration, creativity, communication and critical thinking. And that got me thinking.
That's a good topic for a podcast.
That's a great topic for a podcast. But before I even thought of that, I thought those 4 C's are exactly what we need in the workplace, what we need in public life, personal life. But it's also a lot of the stuff I coach on, actually.
Well, I'm quite happily surprised that they're teaching them at school because they are critical skills.
They are.
I mean, I've always said that grammar's overrated.
She says, author of 7 books, failed English.
Failed English. See, well, that just
But a top
shows
communicator.
Grammar,
Well,
grammar
true.
is overrated. But yeah, we spend a lot of time being, or especially at school, being assessed on those things.
Exactly.
But maybe what we should be being taught and being assessed on is collaboration, communication. Talking about communication, the tradies are still
The tradies are working away outside and they've
Yeah.
forgotten we're recording a podcast, keeping it real.
I think the reason they're so important and why I'm so delighted that they're teaching it is because they are totally transferable skills.
Totally transferable skills and the sort of skills that you should continue to develop and evolve because, again, what we're learning today may not be as fit for the future as it is today.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting, if we want to actively participate, whether it be in a professional sense or in our community, we need to be able to carry out constructive reasoning through critical thinking. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to find solutions through creativity. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to express ourselves through communication. And we definitely need to involve opportunities to reach common goals through collaboration.
So should we talk about each one?
Why don't
Do
we?
you think? Let's start with collaboration.
One of my favourite words. So you and I know a bit about collaboration.
We do.
We are collaborating now.
This is an absolute result of collaboration, which is interesting because we have both chosen to run our own practice, which is pretty much working by ourselves.
I've always said I'm the best boss I ever had.
Yes, I'm the best boss I've ever had too.
bet.
So when we talk about collaboration, because sometimes I get asked a lot by people to say it'd be really good to work together on this, and most of the time I do say no. I mean,
You say no?
I say no.
So I should feel quite privileged
You should
and honoured.
feel very privileged and honoured that I said yes to you straight away.
I'm going to drink some Wild Duck Creek Estate to that.
Well, clearly we had a few things in common.
I think we were drinking when we agreed.
That is true. But So I think it's like not everything needs collaboration.
No, so that's a really good point. So why do you often say no to collaboration? What are your guardrails here?
My guardrails are, is this something that I'm passionate about?
Okay.
So, people like they might be really passionate and, they go, oh, I think we could really help each other. And I sort of go,
Not seeing it.
I think I could help you. And it's just like, I'm not interested in that. So therefore I'm not the right person to collaborate with because I don't. So you have to have a shared passion around
This is what I love about you. You're actually really good at saying no to things that you don't think you'll get as much out of it because that's a trade-off, right? Because if you're going to be putting energy into that thing, then something else doesn't happen.
Yes, exactly.
Like our podcast.
Yeah.
So I'd rather you be putting the energy into this, baby.
Absolutely. And sometimes with collaboration, there's a lot more work involved. There's collaborating.
Often
like
a lot more work involved.
Sometimes you can go, I would just be easier to do this myself.
Yeah. That might not mean that you're getting the best outcome.
No, it may not. It may not, but it may be quicker.
Absolutely.
So you trade off those things. The first book I ever wrote was, with my business partner at the time, and we wrote, and so we were running a business together. So we wrote the book together, but it actually took a while. It took a long time, and now it could have been taken a long time because it was our first book we'd ever written.
No, but two people will take.
But you got two people, and you're sitting on it. The books I wrote by myself then were pumped out much quicker,
faster.
Now you could go, are they better? I don't know. I sort of feel that every book I write's better than the last one.
Gets better and better.
But it's just if you've got two people involved in a creative process like the writing process, that can take longer.
A lot longer.
So sometimes I do get approached saying we could write a book together. And I go, you know what, you write the book. And my advice to anyone who wants to be known for something is just write your book. Don't worry about going with someone else. Just write it.
But in the context of the 4 C's and collaboration, I thought you might appreciate a fantastic quote by Isaac Newton.
Oh, do tell.
If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. So the whole point of that quote was underlining the truth that, sharing means getting more, not less.
Yeah.
So you do get more. You get double brain power, you get double potentially efficiency or productivity, different perspectives. So when I think about our podcast, we share the expenses because, boy, Killen's expensive.
So expensive.
We share the revenue.
Thank God we have a sponsor.
Thank God from our sponsor, the beautiful Wild Duck Creek Estate. We share the ideation. We share the preparation. We even share where we record it from. Sometimes it's your place, sometimes mine. So that's a really good example of collaboration.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of the times one of us will bring an idea to a table or to the table and think about it, and we will go, actually, I'm not sure I agree with that.
Yeah.
So it's challenging each other
and stretching the idea,
which we hope then makes the end product of the podcast
a lot better,
a much informed podcast than one of us just ranting off on our own.
And anyone working in any organisation, in any job, unless you are working as a single entity, will know that you have to collaborate. Yeah. You have to. You're in a team. It's we, not I. So collaboration. What about communication? Boy, 7 books you've authored. You teach on communication. You teach on storytelling. What is it about communication?
I think
that's so good?
Out of all these 4 C's, I think this is the most important. They're all important. They're all absolutely important.
But if you can't communicate, you're not going to be able to collaborate. You're not going to be too creative. And probably not going to critical.
The vast majority of the work I do is going into organisations and helping their leaders communicate like either the new strategy or their new purpose or values, or they're going through a change. And I say, you could have the best strategy in the world. Like you could have the best plan in the world. But if your leaders cannot communicate it in a way that people understand it, but then actually get excited or engaged in it, then what's the point? It doesn't matter.
There's no point. And that's about being clear. It's about being simple. It's simplifying, complex things. Yep. Key message. Yep. Delivery.
I see that even with values where they'll spend months and months and months deciding what our values are going to be or our behaviours are going to be. And
I know a couple of people going through that process with their
another
organisations.
Few bloody months wordsmithing the hell out of it. And then, it was like, is it collaboration or is it be collaborative? It was like, oh my God, it doesn't matter in the end because if your leaders cannot communicate it, what it really means, what is the point? So I think communication is critical. And you see the really good leaders they just invest heavily in this. I mean, they
Great
invest,
communicators.
Yeah.
There's nothing better. People that are very good thinkers who have been able to then take that thinking and articulate it concisely, clearly, and be memorable, right?
Yeah.
That's really important. You want recall. Okay, so collaboration, communication. What about creativity? This isn't just about art, right?
No. And I think that's like, when you see when people go, I'm not creative, it's like everyone's creative. It's like when people say to me, I'm not a storyteller. Everyone's a storyteller. Yes, you can get better at it. But creativity, you're right. It's not just about baking a cake or art or whatever. It's, to me, when I think of creativity, it's new ideas, like even coming up and say, well, problem solving. What about if we did this?
Yeah.
That's creativity.
Absolutely, that's creativity. Some of the best problem solving that I've been a part of or been the recipient of has been somebody being very creative, thinking very differently to anyone else about how we could do something. And just because it's always been done that way,
doesn't mean it always has to be.
Correct.
And if you look at if you even look at some of the challenges the world is going through at the moment with climate change and stuff like that, the problems we're facing now and in the future will not be solved by this is how we've always done it. So
we wouldn't have evolved at all. We'd still be in caves.
Exactly.
True.
And this doesn't apply to the big world issues like climate change or the big major, you work for a company and you've got a big challenge. It can just be
day-to-day things.
Well, how do we, this is something that's happened. What could we do?
I love this definition of creativity. It's the ability to continuously break the patterns of experience. Allow yourself space for expression, curiosity, open-mindedness, and the desire to investigate are all preferential paths to conquer new learning and let the creative mind flourish. So it very much is challenging the norm, challenging the status quo, being open. Curious.
That links to our previous episode we did on questions. So, asking those good
the
questions.
right questions.
Why do you think that? What else haven't we explored? What concerns you about what we're proposing? All those things could lead to a more creative outcome.
Yeah. You'll love this. They say some of the best creativity is through storytelling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I do love that.
So if you were to tell me a story, I interpret it my way, right? So I will think about that story and I'll imagine that story and I'll imagine the characters in that story if it's not you. And I will apply my own creative thinking to that story.
Yeah.
And from that, I could be inspired with ideas.
Yeah.
Hence why art is important in creativity. It doesn't mean to say you have to be an artist. Go to a gallery, go to a movie, listen to music, whatever it might be to inspire the creative thinking.
Yeah. Sometimes when I work with people and they, think, we need a story, and it could be around we need a story about being more creative. And I will go, well, what's stopping that at the moment?
Great question.
And then I will go, well, people just aren't, their minds aren't open to things.
Yeah.
And I go,
growth mindset.
Maybe have a story around having an open mind. Or maybe having a story around just because we've always done this
doesn't mean
that we always have to do it.
Yep.
I call him my son-in-law, not that they're married, but Anthony.
No pressure, Alex. Anthony. You're in the family, mate.
Anthony listens to this podcast, so
he's got good taste. He's a keeper.
Pricking up.
He's a keeper.
Oh my God, what is she going to say?
The mother-in-law.
He's in a role where one of his jobs he was given was to look at the culture of the organisation.
Cool job.
And he's only 23. Well, he's just turned 24. He's a baby, right?
Yeah.
Only been in the job less than 2 years. And he had to report to the
senior
leadership team about the data that he'd got to show that they need to change the culture. And I was speaking to him and he said one of the problems is they've been doing it for years this way. And he goes, and I need to come in and tell them that the way they've been doing it is wrong. And I'm very conscious.
I'm 23.
That I'm 23,
and
right?
I was born yesterday.
And he said, so and he knows, he clearly knows I'm storytelling. He goes, so I'm thinking of a story when, and I forget what he was thinking when he did change something and it worked. And I go, what you need a story on is when you thought the whole time you were doing this, you thought this was the right way to do it and you realised there was a different way.
Beautiful.
And that's what I said you need a story
more
on.
empathetic.
And Alex was there, and Alex goes, why don't you share the story about washing, shampooing and conditioning your hair? And I go, what? And she goes, and Anthony goes, oh, so I've been – he said something about his conditioner and use conditioner for my scalp. And Alex goes, what are you talking about? When you use shampoo is to wash your scalp. So you wash your scalp. When you use conditioner, you just put it through your hair, not your scalp. And he went, oh, really?
Yeah, no.
And so he shared that story about all his young life.
Yeah.
He'd been doing that the wrong way.
Conditioning his scalp.
He'd been conditioning his scalp and washing his hair. And so he used that story to introduce the concept of
that would have been
sometimes
great.
we think we're doing
the right
thing.
When in actual fact, there's a better way.
So when we talk about creativity, I think having stories like that shows creativity. And taps into communication.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Critical thinking. Now, this is a complex one. Critical thinking. I remember somebody saying years ago, that person doesn't apply a lot of critical thinking. And I remember thinking, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be that person. I want to be a critical thinker.
So did you do some critical thinking about it?
I did some critical thinking about it.
Because I think you're right. I think that word is said a lot. And
but what actually is it?
Even if you ask me now, what is it? I would go thinking critically.
Critically, I knew you were going to say that. But listen to this. It's actually very simple, but it's so spot on. Through critical analysis, we take into consideration all the aspects of a situation in order to make choices and decisions. We can't take it for granted. Critical thinking is a skill that has to be trained. Because our human mind tends to draw conclusions based on little information on perhaps certain people or subjects or situations. Our biases. Mm-hmm. And it does that, our mind does that, our brain does that to reduce energy consumption. So by acting through a categorisation system of simplifying, it doesn't burden our memory. So we actually want to burden our memory. We actually want to expand our perspective, expand our thinking so that we become critical thinkers because we are aware our mind is actually capable of doing much more than we think. We can analyse in depth with coherence and completeness, but the complexity is hidden beneath the challenges of our daily lives. So we go into robot mode, right? We go into robot mode. We wake up in the morning, we get up, we brush our teeth, we have a cup of coffee, whatever it might be. And so what we don't do is overburden our mind because we need to get through a day. We categorise everything. We're not going, should I clean my teeth today or not? You just go do it. You just do it.
Which is fine for some things.
Correct.
So what are they saying when you get in business? Is that like, or you know what, or we've just always done it this way, so we do it.
That's exactly it.
So
don't go to the easy. Don't go to what's just obvious and what you know. The point is that you don't know enough. Yeah. And you need to get broader perspectives. You need to ask more questions, talk to different people, think more broadly. How do we think more broadly? We read, we listen, we talk. Pardon me.
Well, isn't there a quote, something about like once the mind's expanded, like through talking to people, asking questions, reading, it can never go back to where it was.
Never ever go back, yeah. I'm not sure about that because I believe, and this is sort of where, dementia and cognitive decline happen, is if the brain isn't being used.
Yes.
So it is a muscle you must continually use. So they say train the brain. If you want to be a great critical thinker, train the brain. If we're in a gym, we'd use a treadmill to keep fit, right?
Yeah.
So, and if we want to keep our mind fit or elastic or reactive, we use critical thinking to do that. So how do we do it? We use it through logical, rational and objective analysis of a certain argument in which it helps us to focus on the details and take everything into consideration. So a good example would be when we're preparing for our podcast, we've always said we're structured but not scripted, and I love that. Mm-hmm. So we will say, well, okay, what are the things that we want to talk about? What are the tips and techniques? But we both know we will be challenged and challenging each other throughout the podcast conversation that we haven't written anything down and that will broaden our thinking. So often when I'm talking about something, you'll go, hey, that's just reminded me of something. Or that may be just think and vice versa when you're speaking. Yeah.
I know part of me is thinking, there's programs you can go on, like critical thinking. And I always think if there's a skill development opportunity, like how to be a better critical thinker, then it's like it's a skill then, something to learn. Just like I run stories, training on how to be a better storyteller because it's a skill you can get better at. Absolutely. And there's stuff on collaboration and there's stuff on creativity. Correct. So it is it's a skill that
Yeah.
you can develop in and get better at.
So we'll talk about this a little bit in the tips, but if you want to be a critical thinker and you want to start applying critical thinking now, then what the one thing that you need to do is being able to accept that you may not know it all or be right, and that other perspectives will absolutely help you become a better critical thinker.
Wow. That's a big step for a lot of people to get over, isn't it?
Indeed it is. But it's a good one to start, right? The very first step is being open to change, accepting that not everybody is right, or that you certainly aren't right. So what else could this solution be? What other opportunities are there?
Wouldn't work be so much more enjoyable for everyone if every leader took that attitude of, I know I don't have the answer, or I don't all the answers or the best answer.
Yeah.
And what if I involved my team and, asked good questions, communicated the thing, got them thinking.
Yeah.
You would come up with a
much better, higher performing function. There's no doubt about it. People used to say to me, what's your, you've been a top marketer for so many years, what would you say is your best skill? And I'd say finding talent.
Yeah.
Hiring really smart people.
Hire good people and get out of there.
Absolutely.
De Bono 6 hats.
Yep.
Remember that?
Edward de Bono.
That was
I
like
remember.
Edward
Black hat,
de Bono.
yellow hat, red hat, blue hat.
Yeah. So black hat. Was that a process of critical thinking?
It absolutely was.
Yeah.
Great example.
Or probably creativity, probably collaboration, everything. But remember, each of the hats had a different role. So I think you started with the blue hat.
Yeah, that's right.
Then
maybe black hat.
You always ended up with black was towards the end because what could go wrong. And then I think one was, how do we do it? But each hat
had
played
its own
a different role. And
That's
what it meant, if you followed the process well. And I used to teach this process internally when I was at NAB, so I can't remember it now.
No, but it was a long time ago. And
it was a long time ago.
Creek Estate wines is there.
But it was all about getting the best ideas and not shooting them down straight away. So when you do a brainstorming and like someone goes, what about this? If someone's going, well, that won't work, we tried it before. It's like, stop. That is not brainstorming.
No.
Just
That's
get everything
shutting down something way too quickly.
So I think that's critical thinking.
Agree. So the 4 C's, collaboration, communication, creativity and critical thinking.
And Chardonnay,
Cab Sav. So what would be really smart if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, okay, I know about the 4 C's, or I know about the 4 C's now, do a little self-audit. What are you really good at the moment? I'm a pretty good communicator. Maybe you need to collaborate a bit more.
Yeah.
I certainly could apply more creativity. And as for critical thinking, that's not something I'm doing at all.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
So do a self-audit. Audit yourself, right?
Yeah.
What out of the 4, which would you say you do the best?
I think communication.
Yeah, agree.
I think I do. I think I creativity. I think I definitely do.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I'm good at collaboration because I know when to do it and when not to do it.
That's a good answer.
And critical thinking is probably the fact that I'm not even sure what it is. So
Have I not explained it?
I know, but before this, I'm sort of saying
I would say you are a critical thinker.
probably. But look, if I had to, and you could say I'm pretty good at all of them, and even as the listeners,
She's also humble.
No, but even listeners might go, I'm pretty good at all of them. You're going to probably need one that needs a bit of work.
Well, the point is you actually need to be working on all 4 all of the time. Yeah. So you said it right at the start. Yeah. Skills today may not be as relevant or apply tomorrow.
Well, especially the technical ones.
Well,
and so
all of this,
these 4 are transferable. So I think if we talk about the tips, we've sort of only got 2 tips here, but they're really good. Invest in this. Invest in professional development. So if you're sort of thinking, critical thinking I'm not great at, it was like go do a course on it.
Read up about it, learn about it, become more open to it. Start challenging people on their points of view so that you can get a broader point of view. Start being open to different points of view.
Read a book. Do stuff like that. So invest in, and the very good leaders keep doing this. So I see people communication or say presentation skills. Don't do a presentation course once in your life and think that's it, right?
Keep
doing it. So keep investing. And the other one is actually give yourself time and space for this. So
Yes.
a lot of we've talked
Spot
about,
on.
critical thinking or strategic thinking or creativity. If you don't allow time in your diary to actually do this,
Then you won't.
then you're not going to
No.
be creative.
No.
And it's like we've talked about before, allocating time to go for a walk or a run.
Yeah.
Because
Prioritise
I know personally that's when I'm very creative.
Well, that's right. That's when you're probably doing some of your best thinking.
Yeah, the best
from a creative
thinking. So
perspective.
allocate time, and then Jack, you've also mentioned before about creating the space for it. I know for me when I write, when I write, I have a little ritual of getting my coffee and lighting a candle.
Beautiful.
And having water. So almost like setting myself up.
Setting your
But the
space.
lighting the candle, it's just the thing. Well, when that's on, I'm writing.
You're on.
And it means I don't go into admin or anything like that.
you stay
Like the-
focused on that.
So
Hey, I've got a 5th C.
what?
Coaching.
Coach?
Because if
Yes.
you want to learn more about collaboration, communication, creativity and critical thinking, get a good bloody coach.
Do you know a good coach?
Yeah.
Jack's an amazing coach. The amount of people that I have referred to you, and then they ring me and thank me.
Oh,
for the
that's so
introduction.
kind. That's
But
so
yeah,
kind. Thank you.
do.
Okay, finally, before we wrap up, hang on. How do
Right.
we apply the 4 C's, collaboration, communication, creativity and critical thinking to
Drinking wine. Our sponsors.
wine sponsor.
Okay, here we go.
Wild Duck
Okay,
Creek
all right.
Estate,
All
our
right.
partner.
You threw this at me. All right, collaboration. Wild Duck Creek Estate and us, we're collaborating. We're collaborating to
good.
bring you the best product we can. We are communicating in a way that's real. We're keeping it real, so it doesn't sound like an ad, hopefully.
Well, hopefully it's not an ad. It's very organic.
As we've said in previous episodes, when I sent you that text from LA Airport, I'm in that very sweet spot of creativity.
Remind me again.
I've had 3 glasses of wine, so I'm in that sweet spot of creativity but not being too drunk.
I love that. You said pissed, which is even better.
Oh, pissed, I did. Okay, and critical thinking.
Open to different perspectives. We're trying different blends of
different
wine.
wine. Yes, we are.
Tried the white. We didn't know that Wild Duck Creek did a great white duck.
White duck.
Loving that.
Yeah.
So there
you
you
go.
are. Well done. Wild Duck Creek Estate. If you're a keeper, you get a special offer, and this wine is superb. Get online to Wild Duck Creek Estate website and check out Keeping It Real, which is a link right on their website, top right-hand corner. Write in the code KEEPERS.
Yep. And
Get an
talking
offer.
about communication or collaboration, if you like this episode, if you like our episodes, the best way you can support us, besides buying the wine, is share it. Share it with your friends, share it with your family. If you run an organisation or a team, just share it to them and say,
share
hey, listen to this. And a 5-star review always is very appreciated. So thanks, keepers. Until next time, we'll speak to you then.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and Rahl. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keelan Ferrari Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.